Sorry for the interruption. That is in the previous lecture in the previous session we got interrupted. So we were discussing about the various components or the arrangement of the RAM in the sequence of the computer architecture. As we have seen that if we want to go for memory expansion of these RAMs, in this example we have connected 4 RAMs in the sequence, and a single ROM has been connected. So 512 cross 8 is the capacity, memory capacity of the ROM, whereas 128 cross 8 is the memory capacity of the RAM. So RAM, every RAM and ROM has got the same data line, same number of data lines are connected to the RAM. But whereas the addressing capacity of the RAM has changed. In this case, every RAM has got addressing capacity of 2 raised to the power 7 or the 128 memory locations. Whereas ROM can be addressed to 512 memory locations. There is a difference between the two. The ROM can read data only. The data cannot be written to the ROM cell. Whereas RAM cells are capable of reading as well as writing. So there's a decoder on this in this place, which is connected to identify that which RAM will be active when required by the processor for the particular address, and how it identifies that which RAM has to be in the operation. This is represented in this table. As we can see that we have 5 components of the circuitry in this part. So 5 components are 4 RAM cells, 1 is ROM cell. So we have 5 components as there are 4 RAM cells, 1 ROM cell. And every RAM or ROM has some address representation that is represented by the hex address. The details of this connection or architecture, how they are connected, how they are being accessed, will be seen in your higher courses like computer architecture. But right now, we just need to focus that how memory expansion, what is the concept of memory expansion, and how this memory expansion is being performed in this case. So memory expansion is is how this is being implemented. We are having the RAM capacity as 128 cross 8, but if we are connecting 4 RAMs in such a fashion that we can use the capacity of the RAM to 512 cross 8. So 128 into 4. So these connections or this connection or circuitry can address the address locations which are 128 into 4. It can address 128 into 4 address locations. Whereas the data lines are same. Same data can be transmitted from this. Same data can be transmitted from this RAM. Same data can be transmitted from this RAM, the second RAM, third RAM, and fourth RAM. So same data will be transmitted from all the RAMs as the data bus is same for all the RAMs. And it is also same for the ROM. But the addressing capacity has changed. So the memory capacity will, as we have discussed previously, the memory capacity is 2 raised to the power m cross n. So 2 raised to the power m cross n, m represents the number of bits needed to address the memory location addressed by the system or the memory. But these represents the data lines. So data lines are 8, which is equal in all these cases of the RAM and ROM, whereas the M is the memory location. So 2 raised to the power m memory location is the addressing capability of the RAM or ROM. So this combination in this case, as we can see that if this is 0, if they all are 0 at the position 10 in this table, if they all are 0. So if they all are 0 means none of the RAMs is selected. And when, when the RAMs are being selected, let me elaborate. When all of them are 0 and we have 1 at this location, it means the processor is asking for the ROM to operate. It is accessing ROM. So if it is accessing ROM, because we are using single ROM in this case. So if we are using single ROM in this case, we need not to give any address or any part for its selection. Whereas we are using 4 RAMs in this case. So we need a combination. Whenever 0 is selected at the 10th bit, it means it is asking for a RAM to operate. And what is the address location of the RAM? The position at the, it will, since we have 4 RAMs, so 4 RAMs can be represented by 2 raised to the power 2 into 4. So 4 bit combinations. So 4 different bit combinations can address 4 RAMs in this circuitry. So 0 0 combination, whenever it is 0 0 combination, it means the processor is asking for the RAM number 1 to operate. If we have 0 1 combination, then the processor is asking for the RAM 2 to operate. Then if we have 1 0 for third RAM and 1 1 for the fourth RAM. So the classification is so done on the basis of this, the combination of these two. So this is nothing but this is regarded as chip select. This is chip select basically. Which chip has to be selected at which time? The processor is, so address will be generated, will be placed on the address bus, and according to the address generated by the CPU, these one of the bit combinations will be high, and according to the combination of these bits, we will select that which RAM has to operate or which ROM, or if there are more than one ROM, then which ROM has to operate. So this is how we perform a memory expansion in case of a computer architecture system. And as this is again has to be elaborated that the capacity of the memory is represented by a single memory cell. Capacity can be represented by 2 raised to the power m into n. We have already discussed the working of a static RAM and dynamic RAM and how we perform read and write operations in this case. As we have seen in this case, that how we performed a read operation and write operation to the static RAM cell, a single static RAM cell. In this case, we saw how read and write operation is performed to a dynamic RAM cell. And what is the structure of a RAM? How many input lines are there for a RAM cell? And what is the output line? And this is the case for ROM. And what is the memory capacity? We are also going to discuss that what is a basic reference cell. So let us suppose we have a basic reference cell. This is represented as a cell of the memory, a single cell of the memory. So what is the single cell of the memory? But before going to it, I have one line to address that in this case, we have line 8 and 9 represent 4 distinct binary combinations to specify which RAM we choose. So depending upon this binary combination, we choose the RAM. When the line 10 is 0, when the line 10 is 0 and CPU selects a RAM, and when it's 1, it selects the row. So when the line is 0, line 10 is 0. The CPU is selecting RAM. So when the line is 1, it selects the row. So in this case, if it is 1, it is selecting the row. When they are 0, it is selecting the RAM. It means at a single time, they both are operating and being selected by the CPU. But the combination decides which RAM has to operate on which address. So in this case, semiconductor memory, we have memory is a collection of cells with the following properties. They exhibit 2 stable states. One will be 0 and 1. So what is basically a memory cell? So memory cell when performing a write operation and when performing a read operation. So every memory cell will have a controller and a select pin, and then we have a data input pin in case of write operation. When it is performing a read operation, the control, select, and this part is regarded as the sense part, as we have discussed and seen in the case of static RAM cells. So this is how we define a memory capacity. In the memory capacity, we have this 1K represents the address locations to be addressable by this memory, and this represents the data to be handled by the memory. So it handles 16 bit of data. So 16 bits of data has to be stored in the memory. It needs 16 bit to transmit data from the memory and to be returned to the memory. So 1K will represent the addressing location the memory is capable of addressing. So the locations which are capable of addressing, as we can see, the categorization has been done in this case, starting from 0 to up to 1023. It can address 1024 or 1K of the memory locations. And hence, this is the capacity of the memory. So a memory has, in this case, a memory is having a capacity of 1K words of 16 bits each. So 1K words are being represented. This is 1K words are being represented by this memory, but each word is 16 bit, has the capacity to store 16 bits of the data. So this is how a memory capacity is elaborated. And this is the basic cell, how it works. So right now we have seen the concepts of how static RAM and DRAM works actually, how the memory expansion is being performed in a circuitry, and what is the basic cell and what is the memory capacity. Let us address one more type of memory which is available in the computer architecture, which has also been mentioned in your curriculum. But there are no details of this memory has to be elaborated, because this is a part of some in-depth concepts of say branch prediction. When we are performing branch prediction or we are discussing hazards in case of pipelines, at that time we use this content addressable memory. But right now you just need to know that this is a logical structure of an associative memory. It's a large memory structure, and a particular data has to be searched. It generally is uh, used as a buffer to store some data to be accessed. Suppose for this case, how do we access this memory? So this memory just works on either it hits the data or it misses the data. So this is known as content addressable memory. So some data has been stored for some reference in this memory, say, and a particular address has been generated by the processor. The processor will go on and ask for that particular address. Suppose it is asking for this address 10011. So if it is asking for this address, so it will go and say, ask this memory, hey, if 10011 is available in this set. So it will go and perform a search operation. And when it performs the search operation, if it finds this address in some location, so it will find this address. If it finds this address at some location, it will place that address data at that particular address in this location, and with a bit representing that yes, this address is available in this memory. So it will be forwarded to the processor itself, multiply memory. But if it does not have the asked address by the CPU, then it will result in 0. So this is somewhat, as we can see that it has also been mentioned in this slide also. We have that content addressable memories are also known as associative memories. It is a type of computer memory used in applications requiring high speed searching. So hit and miss operations are performed. So when it finds the data or the address which has been, when it finds the address which has been asked by the processor, so it is considered as a hit. Means it has found the data that it was asking for. The processor has been asking for, and we have got that data is available. That data is available, and this one represents yes, the data was present. But if it doesn't find that data in this memory, then it is regarded as a miss operation, and it will be considered as a 0. So it represents a 0 if the data is not available. So this is these kind of memories are not very big memories. They are just a small amount of memory, very just higher than the order of a cache memory. Content addressable memories are of the order of cache memory, or just higher than that. But they are implemented in order to perform a search operation faster, or to search for a data when the speed is required. So searching consists in comparing of all data words stored in the memory with a given pattern. So pattern is that is address. All right. So this is part of advanced techniques. You just need to remember what is a content addressable memory, and how do we perform addressing. In-depth working of this memory is out of your course curriculum. You will go through it, but in the next course of computer architecture. The applications can be referred as its applications of CAMs are network routing and switching devices when fast resolving of data recipient addresses is required. So as I have said, if fast resolving of data addresses has been recipient data, suppose it is storing a list of data addressing address recipients. So if address is generated, suppose 100, a particular address is generated, and the processor is asking that if the data recipient is present, so it will go through the list to find out if this address is present. If this address is present in this memory, then it will, suppose this was the location 100 and it was holding some data 1. So this address will be present. The data on this location is 1. So a single bit will mark that yes, this address is present. But if this address is present, what is the data it is holding? It is holding 1. So this part will represent the data holding, and this part will represent that the address is present in this memory. If it, so it will be regarded as a hit. If the address requested by the processor is not present in this memory location, then it will be regarded as a miss, and the output will be output in that case. So CPU and disk drive cache memories, it is being used in processor disk drive cache memory, sequential addressable memory. So these are the parts that we need to discuss now. What is a sequential addressable memory, and what are directed access memory? So let us have a brief overview of sequential access devices or addressable memories. Till now, whatever the memory types that we have discussed, whether it's a ROM, RAM, or any kind of memory, they all were, RAMs were random access memories. So RAMs were random access memories. Why they were random access memories? Because we can access any of the cell that is required in the circuitry of a static RAM or dynamic RAM randomly. You can randomly access any of the address. But in these kinds of memories, we are accessing a data by following a sequence. They follow a sequence, and hence they are known as sequential access devices. So example is the hard disk drive that we are used to store or being used as the secondary storage in the computer systems. The hard disk drives are the biggest sequentially accessing devices that we are using today. So it is a kind of mechanical device. Basically, it is a mechanical device. As you can see that there are certain disks arranged as such in a hard drive, and this disks are arranged around a common point, that common you can say a rod, that is spindle, and we are having a pointer at this point to read every disk, and that disk is known as, that point which points to this location, that is known as a head. So this is how the connection is performed, how a hard drive controller is operating. We have RAM, ROM connected to the processor. Then we have address line, data line, and control lines. And this is a secondary storage which is connected. Multiplexing is being done, and a particular address is being placed by the processor on this address bus, and this address bus is accessing that particular address in this hard disk drive. So hard drive is basically having a stepper or linear motor. These are motors connected to this stepper or linear motor. Then we have read and write heads. These are read and write heads. Whenever read or write operation is being performed, they rotate on this disk to write to a particular location. First of all, they identify that location address where you want to write the data, and then it performs the write operation. So where the controller includes the central processing unit, RAM and ROM memories, and data amplifier circuits, communication circuit. Basically, we have a communication circuit which is acting as the bus circuitry. Then what is the physical organization of a disk? How a physical hard drive, how an hard drive is being organized. This is not in part of our syllabus. It is just for the sake of the knowledge how a sequential drive is operating. See, we have a head. The head corresponds with the one side of the platter. So either both the sides of this platter can be written. This is a platter. A single plate is regarded as a platter. So in this case, we have multiple plates. In this case, we have multiple plates stacked together, one over the other, as we can see. And every plate is having a head to read to perform read and write operation on this platter. So we have a platter that corresponds with one side of the platter track. So how this memory is classified or how this memory is fragmented, let us see. Every part has been divided into tracks. So this part, complete part, outer ring, or we can say the outermost ring is a track. Then this is again a track. This certainly can again be parted into this fashion, and this will again become a track. So this is a track. So it has number of tracks and sectors to identify, to address, to pinpoint to a certain location in the memory. So it is having a track, it is divided, so it will specify track number in the address. Then that track also has been further distributed into parts. So these parts, these are known as sectors. So we have track, then we have sector, and as we have specified that we are using number of cylinders, number of platters in this cylinder to, for the memory location for hard disk drive. So the number of cylinders we need to specify. So a disk capacity will be number of heads, number of tracks, and number of sectors. So this is number of heads is generally to specify the number of cylinders that we are using. So number of cylinders will be equal to number of heads, as we can see in this case, the number of cylinders on the platter. Number of platters will be equal to number of heads. So number of heads, then number of tracks. What are the number of tracks in the location, and the number of sectors. And the sector has a capacity to store this much of the bit amount. So this is how it becomes a secondary storage. And when you are specifying to access a particular location or particular address, so it acts sequentially. First of all, in the sequence, it will try to access which cylinder. Then it will go for which track to operate. Then it will go for which sector to operate. And then it will target that particular location to which the memory has to be written, or maybe the data has to be fetched from that particular. So hard disk drive, this is an example of a sequentially access drive. So you can access more such examples in order to specify these kind of memory elements. And this is all for today. In the next lecture, we will discuss about the programmable logic devices. So till now, we have discussed the different kinds of memories, specifically their nature, volatile and non-volatile. We specified RAMs, ROMs. We classified them. We have yet not discussed in detail about the ROMs, because the ROMs, when they are being discussed in detail, they become actually the part of CPLDs, PROM, CPLDs, and FPGA that we are going to discuss in the next lecture. And then we today discussed about RAM. RAMs were classified into two categories, DRAM and SRAM. Then we discussed difference between the RAM and ROM. Then a basic circuit implementation, how a read and write operation is being performed in a static RAM, then a dynamic RAM. And what is the structure, basic memory design of a RAM, of a ROM. And we saw that how the memory expansion is being performed by using a RAM of low memory, low addressing capability, and how they are being arranged in the circuit to perform memory expansion. And then we saw the basic working cell with the memory capacity, how the memory capacity is being calculated. And we saw a brief introduction of content addressable memory. What is a content addressable memory? And then we have seen a single sequentially access device. In detail, you can go through a video lecture on YouTube regarding how actually a hard drive operates. A hard drive operates in a sequential accessing, but a brief introduction and overview of the working of this hard drive have been provided in this lecture also. So this is all for today. In the next lecture, we will discuss about programmable logic devices and the details of the ROM, how ROMs have been we can say, have been improvised to become a CPIT and a PG. That we are going to discuss. And consider this lecture as the last, consider the next lecture as the last lecture of this module. So this is all for today. If you have any queries, you can base on Google Classrooms, ask on Google Classrooms. Thank you very much. This is all for today.